Welcome to the VIA podcast, presented by AAA Mountain West Group. On this episode, you'll find out what made Mitty say this.
And it also sounds like the start of a horror movie or a psychological thriller.
Lightning Field would be an amazing place to set a horror film. Genuinely so good.
And you'll find out what made Michelle say this.
And good thing they have explosives.
Obviously, they have their art TNT with them. Yeah.
That is very teasy.
Is it?
Yeah. On today's episode of the VIA podcast, we're talking to Dylan Thuras.
And he's no stranger here. We talked to him last season about roadside attractions.
Dylan is the co-founder of Atlas Obscura, which is a digital travel magazine. I get their emails every morning, and it is one of the things I look forward to reading every day. He's also co-authored several books, including one that sits proudly on my kids' bookshelf.
And he's the host of the Atlas Obscura podcast. So, Michelle, what are we talking about with Dylan today?
Land art.
Okay, land art. That sounds interesting. Dylan, welcome back to the VIA podcast.
Hello. Hi. Mitty, I hear you just came back from a big trip, right? Crazy big trip.
Yeah, you know what? I just got back from Taiwan. It was incredible. I had a chance to check out the Lantern Festival, but now I'm back and I'm ready to get into this conversation about land art, which is totally new for me. Can you tell us what land art is?
It is an art movement that really started in the late 60s, 1970s. It is a series of physical places. When I say an art movement, people might be thinking of paintings in a gallery. This is not that. This is a sculptural art movement built around creating gigantic works of art in usually the desert, somewhere often in the kind of southwest and west of the United States. But these are pieces of art built out of dirt, rocks, sometimes cement. There's one piece of land art built out of the absence of dirt. It's a style of art that's entirely place specific. If you want to see a piece of land art, you got to go to the art. The art is not coming to you. It is kind of a wild adventure to see these works of art, which I really enjoy. Can I tell you about a specific piece of land art? Okay.
Tell us about a piece of land art you've visited.
Yes. Okay. So I was in Las Vegas, and I'm not like a big gambler, so I was like looking for things to do. And I realized that about 2 hours outside of Vegas, there is a very famous piece of land art called Double Negative by an artist named Michael Heiser. And so I should say, like, these land artists all think in epic timescales. Heiser has been working on maybe the most monumental piece of land art ever created, called City, since 1970. And I believe it officially finished in 2022. So like, it's 1.5 miles long and 0.5 mile wide, located in central eastern Nevada, out in the middle of nowhere. It will be a piece of art that exists in 2,000 years. Like, all other art will be gone. Mona Lisa will be gone. All this other stuff will be dust. And this will exist because of the way it's being created as giant piles of packed earth. This stuff lasts for millennia. When aliens come in tens of thousands of years and they look, they're going to be like, what great ancient civilization built this thing? And you're going to say, well, there's some guy named Michael Heiser who's really into pushing dirt around.
I love that.
Anyway, Michael Heiser, think of this cowboy figure, kind of swaggering 70s masculine artist, right? And he created this work called Double Negative. To get to it, I had a tiny little rental car. So I'm driving.
What kind of car did you have? Because I need to picture you in this car, Dylan. And what snacks did you have in the car?
Yeah, right.
We need to know these things.
It's like a Jetta. It feels like it's going to blow away in the wind. Got this tiny car, a couple bags of chips, some water. Normal, my little jalapeno flavored chips. I'm just snacking. I'm driving.
I'm a jalapeno flavored chip person too.
The best. So I drive the 2 hours out, getting on more remote roads and then dirt roads. And then it's like very quickly, there are no roads at all anymore.
That sounds terrifying.
Driving this tiny rental car on the top of a mesa, and which being a mesa, it means that if you drive over the edge, it's over.
Right.
There's all these huge boulders everywhere that I'm trying not to get stuck under the car. And then when I returned the car, it had a little light on it that was like, something's happened. And I just dropped it off.
And you ran away.
So rule number one, have the right vehicle.
You might want something more robust than what I have. So I get out here and it's this incredibly beautiful, epic Southwest landscape. and then carved into the edge of this mesa at two separate points where they're pointing each other. Like imagine kind of a U shape. You could make a straight line across the U of this mesa.
Okay.
At either edge of that straight line, a notch has been carved into the mesa. A huge amount of earth has been excavated out of the mesa using both like tools and tractors, but also like explosives. Lots of dynamite was used to do this. And these two notches point at each other. They're about the width of an alleyway, and they extend deep kind of into the edge of this mesa, creating this absent space. And when it was made, they were very neat. It's old now, so they're less neat. It's kind of crumbled, so it looks, a little less sharp. But the idea was that when you look across, it almost creates like in that negative space, like a shape, because they're organized right across from each other. You can almost see like a curtain or a wall or a kind of thing that could slot into that space. But the thing that I thought was so interesting about this thing was that it took forever to do this. They were using dynamite. There are these minuscule little nothings. They might as well be a line in the dirt or something, because set against the scale of the mesa itself and the natural landscape, it's almost like a testament to the futility of man. This is the barest little wisp of a thing. And so that's what I mean when I say like, what you end up seeing is the landscape itself. The piece is a way to see the landscape.
I can think of a million things to do in Vegas, and this is not one of them.
Yeah.
So how do you get into this? Is there some sort of, secret society? What's the deal here?
I like land art. I wasn't alone on that mesa. I got up there and there was a couple other people there to see Double Negative too. It's like a pilgrimage for a certain kind of person. It's a very American movement. It's got this kind of cowboy, and I hate to say it, but a kind of a pretty masculine energy. So picture like Andy Warhol making 1,000 copies of the same image with slight variations and this kind of pop iconography. This was a like inversion of that idea. They're like, you want art? You want real art? I'm going to get some dynamite. And
I'll show you art.
Yeah. And at the same
Let's blow up some stuff.
Right around this period, there was another monumental work being made called Spiral Jetty out in Utah in the Great Salt Lake. Robert Smithson and Spiral Jetty are often considered the kind of godfather or grandfather of land art. Also, very hard to get to. You're really in the middle of nowhere. People are constantly like breaking down and like having to be rescued. Like land art comes with risk. It's a gigantic spiral of rocks going out into the edge of the Great Salt Lake. And it's funny because it often will spend many years submerged, like, which you can't see it. And then it will sort of emerge later. And like all these artists knew this art was going to be ephemeral like that it was going to be a function of the landscape and that it might not be there long. And so Spiral Jetty is like, it's funny because talking about preservation of some of this art is very complicated because like foundations, like we got to preserve it. It's so important to the movement of art. And then other people are like, that was never the intent. The intent was to kind of like make a monumental thing in nature and then just watch nature consume it.
So who are some other artists in this movement?
I'll talk about Nancy Holt for a moment. Smithson, who made Spiral Jetty, died quite young in a plane crash.
Oh, wow.
He died in 1973. So like very early in the land art movement. He was married to Nancy Holt. She continued on this tradition of land art after his death. She brought something really interesting to the land art movement, maybe as a counter to Michael Heiser. She saw the environmental piece of it. She was interested in the preservation of landscapes. And so her biggest, most well-known piece is called Sun Tunnels. If you saw it accidentally, you'd assume it was the leftovers of a construction project. You would just not even look twice. It's 4 giant concrete cylinders, hollow in the middle, like pipes. Imagine giant concrete pipes set in the Utah desert in a kind of a cross shape. The pipes have little holes in them, and the holes in the sides of the pipe align with astronomical moments throughout the calendar.
I love that.
Like the solstices. So your experience of sun tunnels is wholly dependent on the day you're seeing it, the time of day you're seeing it, where you're positioning yourself in relationship to where the sun is in the sky. And so again, all these works are so in conversation with the landscape and nature around them.
Why do you think so many of these, including all the ones we're talking about today, why do you think they're located in the Southwest? How did the Southwest become basically a canvas for land art in this movement?
There's a few reasons. There was a lot of land available cheaply to work with out in the Southwest. So you could get a huge chunk of land, kind of do whatever you wanted on it, and you didn't cost you that much. There was not going to be a lot of regulatory barriers. There was not a significant price barrier. So that was a piece of it. But I also think land art, by definition, is in conversation with the landscape around it. When you see a piece of land art, like, it is really woven into the landscape, focusing your attention on the landscape around it.
Can I ask a question about Nancy Holt? What was her relationship to the Southwest? And in terms of this work, Sun Tunnels, how does it compare to Double Negative?
Think about the landscape as this dynamic experience without like disturbing it. You know,
Right.
She was not interested in blowing stuff up.
Or more enhancing it, right? And
Yes.
it sounds like she was really trying to bring the space between land and space together through these portals in
Yes.
Sun Tunnels. What
Yes.
do you think she was trying to say through this piece of land art?
She wanted people to engage with the dynamism of the natural world around them. Her works were tools to help do that. Her inspiration was basically like the sky, the moon, the stars, that this is a deep connection that exists in all of us. Her work was about giving people windows to make that connection. So we have Michael Heiser on one end, Nancy Holt on the other. Maybe we should talk about Walter de Maria, another famous land artist. And I think in some ways splits the difference.
Okay.
His most famous piece is called The Lightning Field.
Ooh.
And if you search images of the lightning field, it's very dramatic. You can actually find images of lightning striking it. But I have a friend who got to go to the lightning field. Very small numbers of people each year get to actually go see the lightning field because you basically have to like apply.
What?
Oh. It's very exclusive. It sounds almost like how you have to get a permit to go to Supai Falls.
Yes, exactly like that.
Are you signing over your like death rights in case lightning actually strikes them?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
yes.
I thought you were going to... I was kidding.
You probably
Stop
do.
it.
Actually, you probably do have to sign something. But like, they pick you up. they meet you in a specific location, but it's not the lightning field. The location of the lightning field is basically a secret, a closely guarded secret. They put you in these vans and they drive you out there. You don't know where you're going, and you have to stay overnight.
And it also sounds like the start of a horror movie or a psychological thriller.
Lightning Field would be an amazing place to set a horror film. Genuinely so good. You go out there and there's this little cabin, and what it is in this enormous grid on the landscape, perfectly spaced grid of silver poles, metal poles, polished metal poles. And they are spaced in an exact grid, and their tops are at the exact same level, no matter where their bottoms are, right? So there's some parts of the landscape where it gets hilly and they get shorter, and there's other parts of the landscape where they get taller. So it's a perfectly flat surface of all of these poles. You're in this kind of forest of metal, this weird kind of sense of like entering the matrix, where you're just like, okay. The second crazy thing is sometimes, not often, big storms really do roll through the area and lightning really does hit the lightning field. They are all big metal poles in the middle of a field. They do attract lightning. So occasionally you'd see this spectacular show of lightning striking. But the real experience happens at sunset and sunrise.
Okay. Why is that? Yeah.
What happens?
Because all of the poles are perfectly reflective. And so when you look at them, what you see reflected in each pole, depending on where you're standing, is the sunset or sunrise. And it creates this almost like mirror image of what's behind you being reflected back on every single one of these perfectly shiny poles in the desert. So it creates this kind of...
You know what this reminds me of? One of those like geoprism toys, the one you used to put up to your eye.
Yeah, like a kaleidoscope kind of thing.
That
Yeah.
That's before my time.
Yeah.
Okay, Mitty.
Wait, how young are you? Wait a second.
Okay,
Kaleidoscopes still exist. My children have kaleidoscopes. Hang on. No, but yeah, it is this surreal experience to watch the sun come up and be reflected by these sort of highly reflective metal surfaces in this beautiful natural landscape. So that's somewhere in between Nancy and Michael Heiser. It is certainly adding to the landscape, but it is it's a more nuanced touch. And again, it's really about being in communication with the sky, the stars.
Okay, they cannot guarantee lightning.
No.
Oh, I like that statistic because I don't want to see lightning.
The sunrise and sunset experience of lightning field is, I think, what most people are there to see and experience. It's this bizarre juxtaposition of this perfectly symmetrical field of poles and this natural landscape that they're in.
But it sounds like you have to apply. So how did you get your application approved? Is it expensive?
There's a long wait list. My friend went to Lightning Field as part of a graduate school art program.
Oh,
so,
very cool.
And so they sort of prioritized younger artists who are studying to come and see this. It's about $300 per person per night.
Oh, I think that's worth it.
But that's like it's like a medium fancy hotel. You know what I mean? That's like a fancy hotel night, except you're having like one of the true sort of truly unique experiences to be had. Yeah.
Okay, so about Walter de Maria, did he have some sort of connection to the Southwest in this landscape?
I mean, it's interesting, the connection with the Southwest. Again, Walter de Maria was from California, but he spent most of his early art career like in New York, hanging out with John Cage, making weird music art. So he was hanging out with like Lou Reed and the Velvet Underground. And it's funny because these works have become these kind of monumental American things, but they were mostly made by like weird art kids on the East Coast. There was something, I think, of a mythological journey for these young artists. They were kind of like, what would it look like if I made art in a totally different way? And so they're just like giant undertakings.
One thing I read about the lightning field is you are not allowed to photograph it.
That's right.
Is that true?
That's
And
right.
why is that?
A lot of these works are meant to be experienced in situ. They don't work as photographs. I have photographs of double negative, but it just looks like some weird dirt holes. You know what I mean? It doesn't look like anything. You have to be there. And you can look at photos of Spiral Jetty online and get a feel for it. You go, oh yeah, cool. It's like a big spiral. Neat, you know?
Yeah.
When you're there and you've driven 4 hours across the desert and there's no one for miles, you see the scale of it in person and you're like, God, this is monumental. A photograph doesn't do it. And so I think Lightning Field was very explicit about it, which is like, don't even try. Stop. Don't take photos. You got to come.
Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Do not bring your cameras
No selfies.
to the lightning field.
And like in a world where every single thing is intermediated, like the power of an experience like that's pretty high. It's like I
agree.
I'm into it.
This is good stuff. There's more of the VIA podcast to come after this short message.
Hi, Maggie here, your vacation-obsessed AAA travel advisor. Listening to this episode, I'm ready to plan my next road trip, driving a convertible through the Southwest to see some of this epic land art. But maybe the great museums of Europe are more your style. My advice? Consider booking a tour. A guided tour makes everything from planning to navigating way easier. Tours also save you time, letting you bypass lines and hassle. AAA Travel can arrange tours in the most popular museums in the world. You'll be able to skip the line like you're a VIP at the Sistine Chapel, the Louvre, and other hotspots. It's amazing. It's yet another example of what AAA means when we say it's a membership for life. Learn more by visiting AAA.com/VIA podcast.
Thanks for sticking around. Let's get back into it on the VIA podcast. Okay, Dylan, so I know from my research going into this episode that there is new land art that is being made right now in Arizona.
Yes.
It is getting a lot of buzz. Can you tell us about it?
So the artist is, I would argue, the greatest living American artist.
What?
I would argue that
Hot take by Dylan Thuras. You heard it here first.
You heard it here first.
His name is James Turrell. He actually got the National Medal of Arts from Obama in 2014.
Oh, so this guy is known.
Yeah, James Turrell has some famous fans as well, like Beyonce.
Beyonce!
He's well known. He's a famous artist, James Turrell. His work has to do with how we experience light and color.
Okay.
He's very famous for a series of works called sky spaces. They are basically little spaces where there is basically a cutout in the roof where you can see the sky.
Okay.
And you might think like, okay, who cares? It's a skylight. But he also does other things. Often that cutout is in conversation with lights that he has installed that slowly change the color space while you're like also looking at the sky. Our sense of color is extremely relative and subjective. So if you are looking at a very bright yellow light for a long time, and then are shown a bright blue light, your eyes will have a very different sense of those things, having been exposed to them in relationship to each other. And then he's putting in this third piece of conversation, which is the sky. I stood under one of these sky spaces in Texas. It's on a university campus in Texas. You're looking up and the sky will go from black to green to bright blue, all in relationship with how this other light is sort of adjusting your perception of that space.
That's awesome.
They're really amazing. He also has some other sort of color spaces where there is nothing but the color fields that he's creating. And so these are immersive spaces. There was one in Vegas that's now closed that was in the basement of a Louis Vuitton store. So you like went to the Louis Vuitton store and you were like, hello, I'm here to see the art exhibit. And then they'd like take you down in this little elevator. There was a person down there in like almost like a flight attendant suit with like white gloves. And they'd be like,
awesome.
Come stand here. Don't walk forward or you're going to fall, because it's actually, there's like a kind of a hidden ledge which makes this space look basically like an infinite. You just look at this color. Anyway.
I had a friend tell me about the experience in the Las Vegas Louis Vuitton store.
Yes.
And I tried to see it, but the wait list was capped.
Oh,
so it was and I had no idea who James Turrell was at the time. It was just like, hey, you're coming to Vegas. I recommend doing this. It's really cool. I wasn't able to do it. And so I had no idea that that was the same thing until you brought it up now.
I got in by pure luck. I didn't register early enough, but I called and said, if there's any cancellations, give me a call back. And there happened to be a cancellation while I was there. I got to see it. I was so excited. I love James Turrell. He's one of my favorite working artists, as I said. And so amidst all of this big land art movement, spiral jetty, lightning field, all this kind of stuff, James Turrell buys himself a volcano.
Yeah. Most people want islands, a big house.
And it's an extinct volcano. It's not going to blow up, but it's the cone of a volcano. So imagine a huge mound and at the center, a big depression where the lava would have come out. He has been working on this. He's now quite old. He's 81 years old.
Wow.
And he has been working on Rodin Crater. Rodin Crater is not far from Flagstaff, Arizona. So it's like he thought it would be done in the 90s, then 2011, and then 2015. And I should say, just to be fair, everyone kind of puts Turrell in the land art category. He doesn't. He says he's not an earthworks artist or a land artist. He calls himself a mound builder. He says, I make things that take you up into the sky, but it's not about the landforms. I'm working to bring celestial objects like the sun and the moon into the spaces we inhabit. I apprehend light. I make events that shape or contain light.
So it's safe to say that he is more than just a mound builder.
Yeah, capital A artist in the best meaning of that. So this is going to be his great last monumental work. You are going to be able to go into this, through like a tunnel, into this giant crater, and it will basically be a version of one of these sky spaces just done on a scale of unbelievable monumental epicness.
Wow.
Everyone is waiting for Rodin Crater to open.
When do you think it will open?
And what's taking so long?
You had to predict.
Yeah.
I think it's very expensive to retrofit an extinct volcano. Even digging the tunnel, I think, is like a crazy monumental work. I don't know. I am going to guess sometime before, they keep saying soon, sometime before 2030. And I mean, I don't know that people think about this. Like, it's something I've only realized kind of recently, but that landscape is like, it's this crazy collection of volcanic cinder cones. It's like really why it looks like some crazy Game of Thrones landscape. Like, it's so dramatic, all these old extinct volcanoes. It's a very distinct part of the American landscape.
Well, it's not open to the public yet, and hopefully it will be soon. You can see the vision for it online.
You can.
It does remind me of where a sci-fi film would be based. I don't know. It just has this very futuristic, another world kind of aesthetic.
Yeah.
How do you think, if this were the base of a sci-fi film, how do you think the Rodin crater would be used in that film?
I'm going to give you my pitch.
Okay.
You know, we set up electronic systems to listen for alien signals. But a couple of young, aspiring land artists go to Rodin Crater to commune with this epic piece. James Turrell has died. They're doing this road trip in honor. They're going to all the land art across the Southwest. They start to get creepy vibes at Lightning Field, right? It's like they're getting spooked out. They're alone in these remote places. And they go to Rodin Crater and they are looking up at the sky and they notice slowly that the stars are changing in front of their eyes. And they realize that what they're seeing is the coming approach of alien ships landing out here in the Southwest. And they have to use survival skills based on land art to escape and fight back.
And good thing they have explosives.
That's right. Of course. That's right. Obviously, they have their art TNT with them. Yeah.
I would totally watch that movie. You've made me excited. I'm like, this needs to happen, Dylan.
Yeah, this is nice. It's all right. Good. Thank you.
This reminds me when we talked about roadside attractions and there was an attraction that never got finished. I am not saying I want this to happen to Mr. Turrell, but I want him to make it to the end. And this is giving me those vibes from roadside attractions.
It was supposed to open in 2024, but he's going to finish it before he dies. I feel confident about this.
You do?
Turrell he's not going to let me down.
This is a subculture of both people who appreciate art and also for travelers. So can you just please tell us, why is it worth possibly messing up your Volkswagen Jetta? Why is it worth not having cell phone service and having to walk somewhere to call a friend that you're stranded to see these works of art in the Southwest?
You have never experienced a work of art like this. And the journey of getting to them, that drive, that remoteness, that isolation, that desolation, that is part of the work. That is an essence of the work. These journeys are little adventures that you will be telling people about for years. They force you into the mindset the land artist was trying to get you in, which is we exist in a truly epic landscape. And we are small bits of dust against that world. And there is something deeply powerful, maybe frightening, but certainly awe-inspiring to have that experience. These works of art are a way to get there.
Is the experience better with jalapeno chips or?
Yeah, of course, obviously, 100%.
Everything's better with jalapeno chips, maybe.
Yeah, that's not even a question. Yeah, obviously.
Dylan, coming into this conversation, I was like, I don't know if I would ever visit any of these places. Like, you've made me a believer.
Yes,
I'm a believer.
yes.
I'm like, let's go. I don't know about the lightning field, but the other ones, I mean, even the lightning field, I feel like would be really, really cool.
Dylan, that's a big feat because she doesn't camp, but will go to land art. I mean, who knew?
They do have a little cabin at Lightning Field, so you'll be indoors. Well, this was so fun. I love sharing the gospel. I'm a big fan of all these things. So.
Always fun talking to you.
Likewise.
Thanks again for being on the podcast.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Mitty, we've reached your favorite part of every episode.
I hope it's letters from our AAA members.
Absolutely. AAA members are such smart travelers. We love hearing about their trips in the American West. This one is from AAA member Linda Schauhaupt from California. Linda writes, "We visited Robert Smithson's Spiral Jetty in Utah on a family road trip in August 2024. I'd heard about it and was curious, and it was the top of my daughter-in-law's list of must-see places. I love a spiral and an adventure, and the shape and effort put into it are impressive." She continues that it's a rough drive to the spiral, so be sure to pack water and snacks. On the way, allow time for Golden Spike National Historic Park, where you can learn about America's first transcontinental railroad. Everybody in our group enjoyed something there.
Thank you, Linda. Seriously, we love hearing from our AAA members.
And we want to hear from you, too. Send us a note. You can email us at viamagazine.com. We love your feedback, and you may hear your email on a future podcast.
The VIA podcast is hosted by Michelle Donati and Mitty Hicks.
Executive producers Whitney Phaneuf, April Kilcrease, and Dan Miller. Produced by Jason Jackson and Dave Beasing of Sound That Brands.
Discover more places to travel in the West at AAA.com/VIA.
VIA Magazine is published by AAA Mountain West Group.
The views and opinions expressed by podcast speakers and guests are solely their own and do not reflect the opinions of AAA Mountain West Group or its personnel.